For those of you that have been around for a while, you'll recognize this. This is the wooden computer case that I built in 2012. So it's 5 years later. And this computer has been in continuous duty ever since. Now, about a year after I finished building it, I did a kind of an update video. We had a look inside because on the original video, I had a lot of comments from people saying, well, it's made out of wood, it's going to get hot, and there's not enough airflow and all this stuff. So I just wanted to clarify some of that. I have officially retired this computer as of yesterday. The computer that I made about a year ago, actually, I just finished moving into it, you could say. All right, so why did I bring it out to my workshop? Well, originally I was just gonna bring it out to do this video and show what it's like on the inside now that it's, had several years run. But also, this morning I was thinking about this and I was wondering what I was gonna do with the case because it's, it's gorgeous. I mean, you look at it. It's got this veneer on all sides, and it took a ton of time to do all this. And there are several different veneers in here, other than the dust. As you can see, this walnut, this is cherry. The cherry is a lot darker than when it went on here. Oak, maple, more walnut, sapele, more walnut, lace wood up here. And, I made all of the veneers match around the corners. I can just turn this so it's continuous. I've got a little bit of a chip knocked out right here. And of course I lost that, so I can't replace that. I'd have to replace the whole thing. But I'm gonna call that a character mark right there. So it is a nice case, and I was thinking, well, I have to build a new case for my office. My editing computer is, the case for that was a cheap one that I bought just to get things rigged up. And it's not big enough for the gear that I've got in there. It doesn't allow for any expansion. It doesn't allow for, good airflow through it. So right now I have the backside taken off because when I'm editing a video, not specifically when I'm editing it, when I'm rendering a video out, it will get pretty hot and sometimes it will shut down because of that. So I was going to build a new case that I whipped up a kind of a design for, but now I'm thinking that I could modify this one to do that instead. Roughly 3 years since I did clean it. So, wow, pretty dirty, but when you look at it, you can see that the coverage of dirt is even right across the whole thing. And that's the key point of this. There's one fan that pulls air out of the case. And in pushing air out of the case, of course, it pulls air in through the bottom, through this big opening on the bottom here, and it goes up through that filter. So all the air that's coming into the case, virtually all the air, of course, other than leaks around the thing here, is coming through that filter. And it's not coming through just a small point on the filter the way it would be if you put the fan right on top of the filter. If the fan was right above this, it would be pulling it right from that small area, say in the middle or whatever. All right, to have a look inside, I'm going to tip it over on its side, like so. I got a piece of MDF here to cushion it. I'll slide it over so it's a little bit more visible. And I never did make this top so that it was lockable or anything. It just, drops in like this and comes off. And there's a little bit of dust right here, but that's right beside that fan. And when I look inside, there is dust, like a fine layer on everything that's in here, but nowhere near the amount there would be if there was no filter in place. All right, I just wasted about, 15 minutes looking for the blowgun for my compressed air, and I still can't find it, mainly because my shop is such a big pigsty right now. So I'm gonna have to improvise. I got just a connector here, and I'm gonna kind of do this. while I was waiting for the dust to settle, I checked the original date on the build, and it was actually January when I posted the first video. So it was built, that would be January 2012. So the end of 2011 is when I built the thing. So this is the 5-inch fan that exhausts the air out of the case and pulls it up through the filter. And what I did with this, though, is I slowed it down with some resistors that are inside this piece of tubing here that's heat shrunk on there. And I got it slowed down to the point where you could barely hear it. And I couldn't hear it at all because I'm deaf. So, but that was a major consideration with this. I wanted it to be as quiet as I possibly could make it. And I went way overboard with a lot of the stuff in here. I took the fan off the graphics card and I mounted it inside the case on the springs. I'm just gonna unplug all the connectors to the motherboard here so I can take that out and get that out of the way. I'm probably gonna reuse this for something, although I don't know what I would reuse it for yet. It's always more fun to play with newer equipment than mess around with old stuff. Let's get a couple more things to remove in here, and then I can take the motherboard right out of there. All right, power supply is almost out. I'm just going to cut that pull tie in here, get that out, and then it's also attached to that SATA cable, and that's the power switch. So here's the power supply. You can look at that and see how clean that is. That's the other thing I did here. I put the power supply completely inside the case so that it's only getting that clean air through the filter. So that kept it remarkably clean for the, 6 years it was running. Okay, rather than take the motherboard off the tray inside here, I decided to take the whole tray out. And that's the way I did this. I scrapped an old case actually for that part because it has all the standoffs and the spacing is all correct for the motherboard. So there's no messing around. Also, it has the back panel here with all the openings. The ones that I didn't use, I covered with foil tape. That's the stuff that you get for ducks, and it stays good over years. I've only got a couple things left to take out. One is the big hard drive rack in here, and the other is the optical drive that's in the front here. You push on that, and that opens up like that. That's pretty neat. And the only problem with it is that over that 6 years that it was operating, that stayed open most of the time because inside there is the disk drive that you put DVDs in, of course, and there's also the power switches inside there. But it does make it look really clean when it is kept closed. All right, this is the hard drive rack in here, and I think that I'm going to be putting this back in because it's really good. What it does is it allows the hard drives to move independently of the case. You can see here it kind of wobbles, and that's because this part here is separate from the holder or the cradle here, and it's spring-loaded, so it can move like that. Now, not such a big deal with not a big deal at all, actually, with solid-state drives because there's nothing mechanical about them. But I do want to reuse some of these hard drives here. All right, the way I mounted this was on 4 bolts that are actually fastened to the side of the cabinet in here. And they're, you know, have nuts tightening them on there so I can take this off independently like this. And here you can have a better look at it and see how it is. There's room for 2 more hard drives in here. I don't know if I'm going to use all of these. There are a couple of 500s in here, I think, but there's a 1 terabyte one and a 2 terabyte one that I'll definitely want to put in my editing computer. All right, not much left in here now. Just a couple more things that are removable, that are part of the computer itself, and that's the DVD drive. That's all that I had in here. So this one right here, I made brackets to mount it inside the case. And of course it went through the side there and it opened up vertically like this. And that worked well. I had concerns about it in the beginning, but it actually did work out well. The other thing was this card reader, and I never did use the card reader slots that are in here, but I did use the extra USB port, often for a thumb drive to sit in there. So that leaves this thing right here, which I'm going to have to take out, and I'm going to have to rearrange where the new drive goes, which would be a Blu-ray burner. And I'm thinking that I'm just going to change the front a little bit to accommodate that. Okay, I'm pretty sure the parts of this are just glued in. They might be screwed from the front too, but the screws would be behind the veneer. So I'm just going to break the rest of that out. I've also got this cross member in here that the power supply was mounted to. I got to get that out of the way. I'm going to actually stop this video here because the modifications that I want to do to this case are probably better in another video. I just wanted to show how this looked after the 6 years that it was in operation, and you know, kind of go over things like that and my plans for it. Now, as for changing this, no major changes to this, the case itself. It's the right size, basically. It's just a couple inches too tall. So what I'm going to do is cut 2 inches off the bottom, and that way it'll fit in a space that my desk will accommodate.